Mary Jane Watson. Mary Jane Watson from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy is remembered as one of the most disliked love interest in superhero movies. She was supposed to be Peter Parker's great love, the emotional core of the story, but the way her character was written left many fans frustrated. Across all three movies, Mary Jane repeatedly fell into the same role, the damsel in distress. Whether it was the Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, or Venom, her story almost always ended with her screaming for help while Spider-Man rushed to save her. What made it worse was how she treated Peter. One moment she professed her love, the next she pushed him away, constantly hot and cold. In Spider-Man 3, when Harry manipulates her into breaking up with Peter, she goes along with it without ever telling him the truth. Fans saw this as unfair and even disloyal. In the comics, Mary Jane is confident, bold, and supportive, but in Raimi's trilogy, she was reduced to a fragile, one-dimensional love interest. And that's why, even though the films are beloved, this version of Mary Jane remains one of the most disliked Marvel movie characters. Deadpool, or rather, Weapon 11 from X-Men Origins Wolverine, is one of the most infamous character adaptations in superhero movie history. Fans didn't just dislike him, they felt betrayed by how badly the character was handled. In the comics, Deadpool is known as the Merc with a mouth, but in Origins, the filmmakers made the baffling choice to sew his mouth shut. The one character famous for never stopping talking suddenly couldn't say a single word. For fans, that alone was unforgivable. It didn't stop there. Instead of being the wisecracking mercenary everyone loved, Weapon 11 was turned into a generic super soldier experiment. He had optic blasts like Cyclops, teleportation powers, and long arm blades, a mashup of random abilities that made him unrecognizable as Deadpool. By the final fight, he was less a character and more a bland video game boss. Captain Marvel, played by Brie Larson, is one of the most divisive characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. On paper, she was meant to be one of Marvel's strongest heroes, a new face to lead the franchise into its next era. But in execution, many fans found her character frustrating. Part of the backlash came from how overpowered she seemed. Introduced late in the Infinity Saga, she arrived with almost no weaknesses, blasting through ships and overpowering enemies with little struggle. To some viewers, this felt unearned, especially compared to heroes like Iron Man or Captain America, who had years of growth and sacrifice before reaching their full potential. Another major criticism was her personality. While other Avengers are layered with flaws, humor, and vulnerability, Carol Danvers often came across as flat and emotionally distant. Many felt she lacked the charm or depth to connect with audiences, which made her confidence feel more like arrogance. Quicksilver, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson in Avengers: Age of Ultron, is one of the most disappointing characters in the MCU for many fans. Introduced alongside Scarlet Witch, he had the potential to become a major player in the Avengers lineup. Instead, he became one of the franchise's biggest missed opportunities. Compared to the comics, where Quicksilver is sharp, brash, and full of personality, the movie version came across as flat and forgettable. But what really frustrated audiences was how quickly he was killed off. After only one movie, Quicksilver sacrificed himself to save Hawkeye and a child, and just like that, he was gone. There was no real build-up. To make matters worse, audiences had just seen Evan Peters' Quicksilver in X-Men version filled with energy, humor, and one of the most iconic slow-motion scenes in superhero cinema. By comparison, the MCU's Quicksilver felt bland, underdeveloped, and ultimately forgettable. And that's why this version of Quicksilver remains one of the MCU's most disappointing and least loved characters. Professor Hulk, the version we saw in Avengers Endgame, left many fans puzzled and even disappointed. After years of watching Hulk as the unstoppable force of the Avengers, audiences expected a comeback after his humiliating loss to Thanos. Instead, they were introduced to a calm, smiling Hulk who took selfies with kids at a diner. The concept behind him was to merge Bruce Banner's mind with the Hulk's strength, a clever idea in theory. But what fans missed was the raw anger, the untamed power, the very thing that made Hulk exciting in the first place. This wasn't the same hero who smashed through Chitauri armies or flattened Loki with a single swing. It felt like the monster had been tamed too much, to the point of losing his edge. What stung most was how little he contributed in the final battle. Hulk never got his revenge against Thanos, never had that moment of unleashed fury everyone was waiting for. Instead, he became more of a background character, important to the plot but not to the action. And that's why Professor Hulk is remembered less as an upgrade and more as a watered-down version of Marvel's strongest Avenger. Harry Osborn, Harry from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, is a character who gets a lot of hate, not because he was written terribly, but because of what his actions caused. At first, Harry's story isn't the problem. He's introduced as Peter's childhood friend, struggling with loneliness and the pressure of his family's dark legacy. But everything changes the moment his path crosses with Gwen Stacy. The audience had built a deep, emotional connection to Peter and Gwen, their chemistry. It was the heart of the film. So when Harry's rage and desperation led to Gwen's death, fans didn't see it as just another plot twist. They saw it as the moment that shattered one of the best love stories in superhero movies. His actions caused a loss that broke Peter, and broke the audience too. From that point on, it didn't matter what his reasons were. Fans couldn't forgive him. John Walker, the man chosen to carry Captain America's shield after Steve Rogers. On paper, he had the medals, the discipline, the perfect soldier image. But the moment he stepped on screen, fans knew something was off. He wasn't Steve. He didn't have that quiet honor or compassion that made the shield mean something. Instead, John carried it with pride, but also with insecurity, constantly trying to prove he deserved it. That desperation turned into arrogance, and arrogance into rage. And when he used that same shield, a symbol of hope, to brutally kill a man in public, that single image shattered the legacy of Captain America in fans' eyes. From that day, John Walker wasn't seen as the man continuing Steve's mission. He was the man who stained it. Star-Lord. Star-Lord was never the perfect hero, but that was exactly why people loved him. He was reckless, emotional, and flawed, yet he always found a way to pull through. Until Infinity War, the Avengers finally had Thanos under control. They were just seconds away from taking the gauntlet off his hand. But the moment Peter learned that Gamora was dead, everything inside him broke. His anger took over, and in that single moment, the plan fell apart. Thanos escaped, and half the universe vanished. Fans understood why he did it. He was in pain, heartbroken, human, but they couldn't forgive what it cost. And that's the moment Star-Lord went from loved to hated. Thor, once the mightiest Avenger, the god who faced gods, titans, and monsters without fear. He carried storms in his veins and lightning in his heart. Fans saw him as unstoppable, a true warrior who stood tall through every loss. But Love and Thunder took that image and broke it. The same Thor who nearly killed Thanos was suddenly reduced to a punchline. Instead of power, we saw confusion. Instead of growth, we saw a hero running from who he was. Fans didn't hate Thor because he changed. They hated seeing the strongest Avenger turned into a joke. His pain, his purpose, everything that made him legendary was lost under forced humor and silly moments. Because deep down, fans didn't want a clown with a hammer. They wanted the darker, more grounded god they fell in love with in Ragnarok. Iron Man, one of the most loved heroes in the MCU. Even Iron Man wasn't safe from hate. During Civil War, fans watched the man who built the Avengers stand on the opposite side of everything he once believed in. Tony Stark had always been the heart of the team, but guilt changes people. The mistakes of Ultron haunted him, and his fear of losing more lives made him side with the government, forcing control over heroes who just wanted freedom. Watching him clash with Captain America, a man he once called a friend, broke fans' hearts. Suddenly, the hero who started it all was seen as the villain. But time proved Tony right. When Thanos finally attacked, the world needed unity, not chaos. Exactly what Stark had warned them about all along. She-Hulk had everything to become Marvel's next big hero. Smart, confident, and tied to one of the most powerful Avengers ever. Jennifer Walters was meant to bring a new kind of strength, someone who could balance law and power. But when the show released, fans didn't see the Hulk they were waiting for. Instead of exploring her struggle or her anger, it focused too much on jokes and self-awareness. The tone felt off, the stakes felt small, and the heart that made characters like Banner or Tony relatable just wasn't there. The potential was huge, but the writing turned what could have been an inspiring hero into a character fans struggled to care about. She didn't need to be funnier or louder, she just needed to feel real. Hawkeye was never truly hated, but he was never fully appreciated either. From the beginning, fans saw him as the odd one out. In a team filled with gods, geniuses, and super soldiers, Clint Barton didn't have lightning armor or rage, just a bow and a handful of arrows. And that's where the disconnect started. While others were saving worlds, Hawkeye often felt like the background character, quiet, replaceable. Even his solo series couldn't change that image, with many fans feeling he was overshadowed yet again. And that's why, for many fans, he'll always be the Avenger they respected, but never truly loved.